Before we begin, I want you to take a slow breath. Not because this video is motivational, but because you're about to enter a space most people spend their whole lives avoiding. In this video, we're diving deep into truths that are going to confront you, challenge you, and force you to level up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This isn't inspirational fluff. This isn't the feel-good motivation that fades in an hour. This is raw life, the kind people rarely talk about, the kind you feel in your bones. Each principle you hear today is carved from lived experience, echoing everything the Stoics understood about pain, discipline, and identity. These ideas were born in ancient Rome, but they are more relevant today than ever before. Before we go deeper, I need one thing from you, just one thing. If you're serious about growing, if you're tired of repeating cycles, if you want to step into the life that's been waiting for you, don't watch this video casually. This is not background noise. This is not something to play in the back while you scroll or multitask. This is your wake-up call. So right now, like this video, drop a comment as we go through, especially when something cuts deep. Share this with someone who's also on their journey. And most importantly, don't skip any part, not a sentence, not a line. Because one missed insight could cost you a moment of clarity that changes the entire direction of your life. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The shadow you don't show the world. There are parts of you that you've never spoken out loud, not because you're dishonest, but because life has taught you that certain truths are easier to carry in silence. The Stoics understood this very well. They believed every person carries a hidden room inside them, a private space filled with fears, memories, mistakes, regrets, and the versions of ourselves we don't know how to face. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But he also meant this: some colors we try very hard not to see. We all have a shadow, not the villain inside us, but the wounded child, the overwhelmed adult, the scared human being trying to hold life together, even on the days everything feels like it's falling apart. You've probably lived moments that changed you without warning, moments that forced you to grow up too quickly, moments that taught you how cruel the world can be, moments that showed you the difference between who you pretend to be and who you truly are when no one is watching. This shadow forms from the things you blame yourself for, the things you regret, the things you wish you could undo, the things you secretly fear, the things you wish someone understood, the things you survived but never processed. And yet you wake up every day and continue moving. You continue trying. You continue living. You carry this shadow quietly, like armor that nobody sees. But here's the Stoic truth. Avoiding the shadow doesn't make it disappear. It makes it stronger. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He wasn't minimizing pain. He meant that the things we avoid, the conversations we delay, the memories we suppress, the wounds we refuse to touch, become bigger in our minds than they ever were in the world. Think about this. How many times have you assumed you weren't enough? Not because someone said so, but because your own mind whispered it in the quiet moments. How many times have you convinced yourself that you're too broken, too flawed, too behind, too late, too damaged to become who you want to be. The Stoics would tell you, you are not broken, you are unfinished, and there is a difference. The shadow you carry is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is simply the part of you that has not yet been understood, tended to, or healed. It is the unprocessed version of you still waiting for closure, for compassion, for attention. But facing the shadow is difficult because it requires honesty without judgment, and most people don't know how to give that even to themselves. We tell ourselves, I shouldn't feel this way. I should be stronger than this. I should have moved on by now. I should be better. But every should is a chain. Every should is a weapon we turn inward. Every should distances us from what we actually feel. Marcus Aurelius would have reminded you, when you are distressed by anything, it is not the thing itself, but your judgment of it. He meant your emotions are not the enemy. Your interpretation of them is. Your shadow is not the enemy. Your fear of facing it is. Most people run from their shadow by staying busy, constant productivity, numbing with distractions, avoiding quiet moments, jumping from one goal to the next, pretending the pain doesn't exist, forcing a smile. But according to the Stoics, avoiding your shadow is like trying to outrun your own reflection. The more you run, the more it follows. So let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you sat alone with your own thoughts without trying to escape them? When was the last time you let yourself feel without rushing to fix it? When was the last time you told yourself the full truth about what actually hurt you? Not the version you tell others, not the version you justify, but the real truth. Because that truth, that quiet, uncomfortable truth, is where healing begins. Not with motivational speeches, not with pretending to move on, not with suppressing everything and acting like it doesn't matter anymore. Healing begins the moment you stop running and finally turn around to meet the shadow face to face. But walking into that truth requires something most people avoid: stillness. The Stoics understood the power of stillness. They believed that silence is not empty. It is where the soul reveals itself. But the modern world fears silence. We fear what we might hear in it. Real growth, however, always happens in the conversations you have with yourself that nobody else hears. That's where the shadow softens. That's where understanding begins. That's where clarity emerges. You're not meant to defeat the shadow. You're meant to understand it. You're meant to ask, what are you trying to show me? What part of me needs attention? What wound needs compassion? What belief needs to be challenged? What memory needs to be released? This is the Stoic way. Not denial, not numbing, not pretending, but radical self-honesty guided by courage and reason. You are not who your shadow says you are. You are who you choose to become once you understand it. You will eventually realize something Marcus Aurelius knew centuries before you were born. The most exhausting battle you fight is the battle against your own pretending. You pretend to be unaffected. You pretend you're okay. You pretend you don't care. You pretend you're not tired or lonely or confused. You pretend you're not doubting yourself. You pretend the past didn't mark you. But your soul always knows the truth. And when your soul knows the truth, but your voice keeps lying, you start to break from the inside outward. you begin to live two lives, the life you perform and the life you endure. Stoicism is not about pretending to be emotionless. It's about learning how to see yourself clearly and surviving the truth with dignity. Seneca said, "You must live in a way that your soul feels no shame when it looks at your entire life." But think about your own life for a moment. How many things are you ashamed to admit, even to yourself? How many times have you avoided your own reflection because it reminds you of the parts of yourself that you refuse to face? How many battles have you fought silently because the people around you only know the version you curate, not the version you carry? This is your shadow, and most people run from it their entire lives. The Stoics believed that avoiding pain is the fastest way to become controlled by it. You avoid heartbreak, so you fear relationships. You avoid failure, so you fear trying. You avoid rejection, so you hide your voice. You avoid discomfort, so everything scares you. Avoidance breeds weakness. Weakness breeds fear. Fear breeds dependence. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "No man is free who is not master of himself." But how can you be master of yourself if you're still running from the pieces of yourself you don't want to see? You cannot govern a territory you refuse to enter. Let me tell you a truth most people never hear. You're not lost because you don't know where to go. You're lost because you don't know who you are without your pain. Pause and sit with that. Every identity you've built was shaped by your scars. Your work ethic is a response to being underestimated. Your independence is a response to being let down. Your silence is a response to not being heard. Your strength is a response to not being protected. Your overthinking is a response to being blindsided. And your difficulty trusting people, that's not personality. That's trauma wearing a mask. Stoicism doesn't ignore these truths. It forces you to confront them directly. There is an ancient Stoic idea that says the path to inner strength is not running from the fire, but standing still in it until the flames reveal who you really are. Fire teaches clarity. Fire teaches focus. Fire teaches humility. Fire teaches truth. Pain purifies. Loss sobers. Disappointment sharpens. Failure rebuilds. But most people panic. They run. They escape. They numb themselves. They distract their souls. They never stay long enough to meet the version of themselves that only appears at the edge of breaking. Today, most people aren't suffering. They're distracting themselves through suffering. They numb their pain with endless scrolling, temporary validation, empty relationships, overworking, avoiding silence, confusing busyness with progress, consuming more than they create, entertainment instead of reflection. You're not healing. You're just avoiding your own inner room. Epictetus said, "No man is free who cannot command his own attention." And that's the truth. You can't heal if you're always hiding from the feelings that would actually teach you how to grow. How you begin to reclaim yourself. Here is the first Stoic principle that begins your journey out of the shadow. 1. Radical honesty with yourself. Not the Instagram version, not the polished version, not the version you show in public, the true version, the ashamed version, the scared version, the insecure version, the wounded version, the version whose voice cracks when saying what really hurts. Sit with that person. Stop abandoning yourself every time your truth becomes uncomfortable. Your life changes the moment you stop lying to yourself about how you really feel. The second principle: control your inner narrative. Your mind is a storyteller. Your thoughts are not facts. They are interpretations. The Stoics taught, you live as you think, change your thoughts, and your life follows. But here's what modern life does. It gives you thousands of narratives from other people that drown out the quiet voice inside you. You start thinking in someone else's language. You start believing someone else's fears. You start chasing someone else's idea of success. The world is loud, but wisdom is quiet. That is why you feel disconnected. You've been hearing everything except your own soul. The third principle: clarity through discomfort. Clarity doesn't come from comfort. Comfort makes your vision blurry. Comfort makes you slow. Comfort makes you careless. True clarity is born from a broken moment that forces you to see life without filters. You see who cares. You see who lies. You see who stands with you. You see who only needed you for convenience. You see what truly matters. You see what you must walk away from. The hardest seasons sharpen your perception in ways comfort never could. This is why the Stoics embraced hardship, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because suffering brought revelation. There comes a moment in every person's life that changes the entire trajectory of who they become. Not a loud moment, not a dramatic one, a quiet, private moment where you finally whisper to yourself, I deserve better, and I will not live like this anymore. That moment is the beginning of rebirth, because rebirth doesn't happen when your circumstances change. Rebirth happens when your standards change. Here is the paradox. Your shadow, the part of yourself you hide, is actually the strongest part of you. Your shadow holds your resilience, your ambition, your hunger, your clarity, your intuition, your hidden genius, your emotional truth, your spiritual sensitivity. Everything you think is weak about you is actually where your greatest power sleeps. The Stoics didn't fear their shadow. They studied it, listened to it, learned from it, mastered it. Because only the person who knows their shadow can fully step into their light. Before Chapter 1 ends, I want you to sit with a single question. What truth about myself have I been running from the longest? Don't avoid it. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't repackage it. State it plainly. Because whatever you refuse to face is exactly what you must confront to reclaim your life. There is a silent price you pay for avoiding the truth of who you are. It's a price most people don't even realize they're paying until years have passed and regret becomes heavier than fear. The Stoics warned, you can waste your entire life not being yourself. And when you live as a stranger to your own soul, your relationships become performances. Your success feels empty. Your decisions lack conviction. Your boundaries weaken. Your emotions become unpredictable. Your confidence becomes fragile. Your life becomes reactive instead of intentional. You cannot feel whole while living a life built on avoidance. The parts of you you refuse to understand end up controlling the decisions you make. A person who doesn't know themselves cannot know what they truly want. And so they end up chasing things that mean nothing. Let's talk about the phrase you use to escape your truth. I'm okay. The modern world has turned this sentence into a shield, a uniform, a barrier. But I'm okay is usually code for I'm drowning, but I don't want you to see me underwater. The Stoics didn't believe in pretending. They believed in owning reality without dramatizing it or escaping from it. To them, saying, I'm okay when you're not, is not strength. It's denial. Strength is saying, I am hurting, but I am not broken. I am confused, but I will find clarity. I am disappointed, but I will not give up. I am healing, but I am not hiding. Radical honesty is the birthplace of personal freedom. Inside you, two selves are fighting. One, the self shaped by fear, history, and wounds, avoidant, defensive, reactive, easily triggered, easily discouraged, hungry for validation, afraid of vulnerability, afraid of loss, afraid of rejection, afraid of failure. And two, the self shaped by truth, clarity, and consciousness, calm, intentional, grounded, focused, emotionally stable, independent, wise, unattached, observant, resilient. The Stoic journey is the process of letting the second self take control of your life. But this only happens one way: through awareness, through reflection, through discomfort, through stillness, through facing what you've avoided. You can't become your highest self without confronting your lowest one. Let me tell you something that took people thousands of years to understand. You don't feel empty because you're missing something. You feel empty because you're disconnected from yourself. You've achieved goals that didn't belong to your soul. You've built lifestyles that weren't aligned with your spirit. You've said yes to things that dishonored your inner standards. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Modern translation: you cannot grow when you keep forcing your soul to live a life that doesn't fit you. The emptiness you feel is not a void. It's a message, a signal, a whisper, a warning. Your soul is telling you that you abandoned yourself somewhere along the journey. Life shapes you. Trauma shapes you. Parents shape you. Culture shapes you. Heartbreak shapes you. Rejection shapes you. Failure shapes you. But here's the Stoic truth. You are not your experiences. You are the meaning you assign to them. If they betrayed you, you learned loyalty. If they abandoned you, you learned independence. If they rejected you, you learned self-worth. If they underestimated you, you learned discipline. If they broke you, you learned resilience. If they ignored you, you learned silence. If they humiliated you, you learned humility. If they hurt you, you learned wisdom. Life didn't destroy you. It initiated you. But here's the deeper truth. You have outgrown the version of yourself that was built only to survive. Now you must build the version of yourself that is ready to live. The Stoics believed that emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers. But if you do not understand their messages, they become your masters. An unexamined emotion becomes anger, anxiety, jealousy, obsession, insecurity, impulsiveness, overthinking, avoidance. A studied emotion becomes clarity, self-awareness, wisdom, patience, discipline, balance, courage, presence. Emotional mastery is not suppressing your feelings. It is organizing them, putting each emotion in its rightful place so it no longer controls you. Every person eventually reaches a point where they must decide, do I keep abandoning myself just to feel accepted? Or do I finally stand alone and reclaim my soul? The Stoics believed that solitude is not loneliness, it is self-respect. Standing alone doesn't mean you don't need anyone. It means you will no longer betray your truth to keep people who don't honor it. The world teaches dependence. Stoicism teaches resilience. It teaches you that you can be disappointed and still be stable. You can be hurting and still be disciplined. You can feel lonely and still choose self-respect. You can lose things and still not lose yourself. This is inner strength. This is sovereignty. This is personal power. You are not becoming colder. You are becoming clearer. You're not becoming emotionless. You are becoming emotionally disciplined. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming selective. You are not becoming untrusting. You are becoming perceptive. You are not becoming detached. You are becoming wise. You are not becoming selfish. You are becoming self-aware. Life has been preparing you for a higher level. You may not even realize you're stepping into. Growth is uncomfortable because your old life is no longer compatible with your new standards. Before this part ends, I want to give you a practice the Stoics used daily: the pause. Whenever something triggers you, a message, a memory, a comment, a disappointment, a rejection, a fear, a misunderstanding, a sudden emotion, don't react. Pause, breathe, observe, detach, evaluate, respond with intention. In that pause, you become the master of your life instead of a prisoner of your reactions. At some point in your journey, you will have to sit across from the version of yourself you've been trying to outrun for years. Not the confident version, not the strong version, not the "I've got it together" version, but the real one, the exhausted you, the wounded you, the misunderstood you, the version of you that still remembers every betrayal, every loss, every embarrassment, every regret, every moment you pretend didn't affect you. You must face that version, because that version carries the truth you've been ignoring. The Stoics believed no man can escape himself, and the longer you hide from your shadow, the more powerful it becomes. But the moment you face it, it stops being a monster and becomes a teacher. The part of yourself you're ashamed of holds more wisdom than the version you display proudly. Your shadow reveals what you truly fear, what truly motivates you, what you truly desire, what pains you haven't addressed, what patterns you keep repeating, what memories still control your decisions, what wounds you've normalized, what boundaries you've never built. You cannot transform what you refuse to understand. Your shadow is not here to haunt you. It's here to guide you. It's the map of unfinished battles. It's the archive of your personal history. It's the raw version of you that still believes you deserve more than the life you've been settling for. The Stoics practiced something modern psychology only recently rediscovered: integration. Not suppression, not denial. Integration. It means you acknowledge your flaws without being defined by them. You accept your past without becoming trapped in it. You embrace your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. You admit your fears without letting them limit your choices. Stoicism doesn't ask you to become perfect. It asks you to become aware. Self-awareness is the highest form of power a human being can possess, because a person who knows themselves cannot be manipulated by fear, society, or circumstance. Let's talk about the cycle you've probably been stuck in for years. Yes, that cycle. The one that feels familiar, but destructive. Comfortable, but suffocating. Predictable, but draining. The Stoics understood this deeply. People repeat the same patterns, not because they are weak, but because they are unconscious. Patterns only break when you bring awareness to the part of you that keeps choosing them. What pattern runs your life? Is it choosing people who don't choose you? Is it giving more than you receive? Is it staying silent when you want to speak? Is it shrinking yourself to make others comfortable? Is it pushing people away to avoid being hurt again? Is it doubting yourself even when you know the truth? Is it loving people who drain you? Is it overthinking everything instead of acting? Is it running from responsibility with distractions? Whatever your pattern is, your shadow knows the reason for it. And the moment you face that reason, the cycle ends. Let's correct a misconception the modern world has about Stoicism. Stoicism is not emotional numbness, it is emotional independence. The Stoics did not avoid love. They avoided attachment to outcomes. They did not avoid connection. They avoided losing themselves in people. They did not avoid feelings. They avoided being ruled by them. Detachment does not mean, I don't care. Detachment means, I care deeply, but I am not controlled by what I cannot control. That is real strength, not the coldness you built because the world hurt you, not the emotional walls you created to protect yourself, but the wisdom to remain grounded in your truth, no matter what someone else does or doesn't do. Right before transformation, there is always a moment where everything feels like it's collapsing. Your emotions become louder. Your patience becomes thinner. Your tolerance becomes smaller. Your soul becomes restless. Your relationships feel heavier. Your dreams feel distant. Your path feels blurry. This is not a breakdown. This is spiritual shedding. It's your old identity fighting for survival as your new identity steps into the light. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your greatest obstacles are not blocking the path. They are the path. Your pain is not an interruption, it is an initiation. Control what you can. Release what you can't. Everything in life falls into two categories: what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control other people's loyalty, other people's feelings, other people's choices, who stays, who leaves, what fails, what ends, what betrays you, how life unfolds, how the world treats you. But you can control your character, your response, your discipline, your worldview, your habits, your self-respect, your patience, your growth, your emotional state, your values, your decisions, your resilience, your mindset. Your power begins the moment you stop trying to control anything outside of you. Freedom is internal, not external. There comes a moment when you stop negotiating with yourself and you finally say, I am enough as I am, and I am becoming more every single day. This moment is not loud. It doesn't come with applause or recognition. It arrives quietly, in a moment of deep self-awareness that only you will experience. Self-acceptance is not the end of your journey. It is the foundation of it. Because when you accept who you are, the world loses the power to define you. Chapter 1 was about your shadow, the unseen part of you. Chapter 2 will take you into the deepest battlefield of all, your mind, where your fears are born, where your stories are created, where your reactions originate, where your identity is shaped, where your destiny begins. Chapter 2 will explore mental discipline, mental clarity, inner focus, rewiring internal narratives, conquering anxiety from a Stoic perspective, learning the art of stillness, building an unshakable inner world, the psychology of overthinking, strengthening the warrior mind. But before we move on, here is the ending message you requested. If this message resonated with you, like the video, comment your favorite law, share this with someone on their journey, subscribe. We're building a community of thinkers, warriors, and people who are committed to their evolution. Stoic Law 2. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. Inspired by Seneca. Interpreted for the modern warrior. Chapter 2 begins with a truth that hits harder the older you get. Most of your pain never actually happens. You lived it only in your mind. Seneca said this almost 2,000 years ago, yet it's shocking how accurately it describes the modern human being. Scrolling, worrying, overthinking, replaying, forecasting disasters that never arrive. You're living in a world where fear comes at you from every direction. Bills, rejection, failure, loss, embarrassment, opinions, expectations. And the Stoics would look at you and ask, how much of this is real? And how much is imagination tormenting you? This chapter is not motivational talk. This is psychological surgery. Today we dismantle the architecture of fear itself, piece by piece, layer by layer. Because until you master this law, your life will be controlled by fantasies of disaster, not facts. Picture this clearly. You wake up in the morning. Before your feet touch the ground, your mind has already created 5 imaginary crises. What if my business fails? What if they laugh at me? What if I embarrass myself? What if I'm not enough? What if today goes wrong? You haven't eaten. You haven't spoken to anyone. You haven't actually experienced anything yet, but you're already exhausted. Why? Because your brain has run a full simulation of suffering before the day even begins. Seneca warned us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Meaning, you're fighting battles that don't exist. You're bleeding for wounds that aren't real. You're afraid of shadows. And the worst part, you're doing it habitually. Automatically, sometimes unconsciously. You've lived in this inner prison for so long, you think it's normal. But it's not. This isn't life. It's mental captivity. There's a reason this happens, and the Stoics understood it long before psychology did. 1. The brain loves predicting threats. Your mind is wired for survival, not happiness. It scans constantly for danger. Not modern danger, ancient danger. Your brain still thinks you're in a forest trying not to get eaten, so when there's no real threat, it invents one. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of dying, psychologically, socially, emotionally. That's why rejection feels like danger. That's why starting something new feels like danger. That's why change feels like danger. 2. You repeat the same. Mental stories. Stoics said the mind becomes what it continually thinks. So if you always imagine the worst, fear becomes your default identity. Your imagination is powerful, but you've been using it against yourself. 3. You think feelings, chase you on facts. This is one of the greatest traps of the modern human. You feel afraid, therefore you think something is wrong. But the Stoics taught the opposite. What you feel is not always what is real. You can feel insecure and still be capable. You can feel uncertain and still be safe. You can feel fear and still be in control. The Stoics made a distinction that will change your life if you understand it deeply. There are two kinds of problems. Real problems require action. Imaginary problems require clarity. Most people confuse the two. Let's break this down. Real problems. Examples. Your rent is due in 7 days. Your exam is next week. Your project deadline is tomorrow. Your relationship is genuinely in conflict. These require strategy, effort, courage, work. Imaginary problems. Examples. What if I fail? What if they talk about me? What if the future goes wrong? What if I'm not good enough? What if I lose everything someday? These require discipline of thought, not action. And here's the painful truth. Most people are spending their energy solving imaginary problems instead of real ones. That's why their life feels stuck. Their energy is going to smoke and illusions. When you live in imaginary fear, you don't take risks, you don't grow, you don't try, you don't start, you don't explore, you don't live. Because every what if becomes a chain holding you back. Here's a technique Stoics use that can transform your inner life instantly. Whenever you feel fear, ask, what is the fear exactly? Most people can't answer. Then ask, is this happening right now? If the answer is no, then it's imagination, not reality. And imagination can be controlled. Example, I'm afraid my business will fail. Okay, is it failing right now? Not tomorrow, not someday, not possibly, right now. Usually the answer is no. Next, what evidence do I have for this fear? Most fears collapse under scrutiny. Then, what action can I take today to reduce the risk? This does two things. Removes imaginary suffering, directs your energy into real improvement. That's Stoic mastery. Take a moment right here. Think about one fear that has been draining your mental energy. Say it clearly in your mind. Now ask, is it happening now? What evidence do I have? What action can I take today? You just practiced ancient Stoic wisdom. You cut the chain of imaginary suffering, even if for a moment. Before we go deeper, you must understand something brutally clear. Overthinking is not intelligence. Overthinking is fear disguised as analysis. You think you're being careful. You think you're being smart. You think you're processing. But the Stoics would say, no. You're avoiding life by living in your head. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ran the most powerful empire in the world, wrote in his private journals, "Today I escaped anxiety, or no, I discarded it, because it was within me, in my own perceptions." That sentence is the entire blueprint. Anxiety isn't outside you. It's inside your interpretation of events, and overthinking is the mechanism. What overthinking really is, overthinking is the habit of creating pain through mental repetition. You replay the past, suffering for what's already gone. You imagine the future, suffering for what hasn't come. You judge yourself, suffering for things that may not even be flaws. You fear judgment, suffering for conclusions others haven't made. You expect disaster, suffering for outcomes that never happen. Overthinking is imagination turned against you. And make no mistake, Overthinking kills more dreams than failure ever will, because failure requires an attempt. Overthinking stops the attempt entirely. Stoics understood something modern psychology later confirmed. Fears don't just appear. They cycle, they loop, they reinforce themselves. Here is the cycle. A thought appears. What if I fail? The body reacts. Heart rate rises. Muscles tighten. The mind misinterprets the body's reaction as danger. Oh no, something bad is happening. The fear amplifies. More worry, more mental scenarios. The body reacts even more. Panic, stress, anxiety. You feel trapped. I can't handle this. The Stoics called this the chain of impressions. One impression leads to another and another until the mind becomes a storm. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently think. If you frequently think fear, you become fear. If you frequently think strength, you become strength." It's not magic, it's identity. So how do you break the fear loop? Stoicism gives us a weapon, the discipline of assent. Stoics believed that every thought that enters your mind is like a visitor knocking on your door. Some are useful, some are dangerous, some are illusions. But here's the key. You don't have to let every thought inside. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean you must accept it. You are the gatekeeper. This is called assent. The moment you decide whether a thought gains power or stays powerless, here's how it works. A fearful thought appears. What if everything goes wrong? The untrained mind immediately assents. Yes, that's true. That might happen. Then the fear begins. The Stoic trained mind responds differently. Is this a fact or imagination? Is this happening now? Where is the evidence? What exactly is the threat? Does this thought help me or harm me? 95% of the time, the thought collapses. And what remains? Clarity. Whenever a thought appears, fear, anxiety, insecurity, doubt, it must pass through these 4 questions. 1. Is it true? Not, does it feel true? Not, could it be true? But is it true right now? Example, I'm going to fail. Not true. Not yet. Pure imagination. 2. Is it useful? Does this thought help you prepare, grow, act, or protect yourself? Or does it paralyze you? If it paralyzes you, discard it. 3. Is it within my control? If yes, take action. If no, release it. Simple, not easy, but transformative. 4. What is the worst realistic outcome? And can I handle it? The answer is almost always yes. And once you realize you can handle the worst, the fear dissolves. This is what the Stoics called facing the fear to shrink the fear. Fear grows in avoidance. Fear dies in examination. Most imaginary suffering happens because the mind is living everywhere except now. You suffer. In memories you can't change, in futures that don't exist, in scenarios your brain invented, in judgments that never happened, in outcomes that will never occur. Marcus Aurelius said, "Confine yourself to the present." And when the present is all you focus on, something amazing happens. Fear fades, clarity rises, strength returns, action becomes easier. Stress reduces. Life feels lighter because the present moment is the only place you have power. The Stoics didn't meditate for relaxation. They meditated for control, to pull the mind out of imaginary suffering and bring it back to what is real. Right now, think of a fear that has been living in your mind. Ask, is this happening now? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? Is this within my control? What action can I take today? You just practiced one of the highest Stoic skills, removing suffering caused by imagination. Let's go deeper. Stoics believed that suffering doesn't come from the world. It comes from the story you tell yourself about the world. And if you're honest, your inner dialogue has probably talked you out of many things. Opportunities, relationships, creativity, dreams, confidence, peace, recovery, healing, speaking up boundaries, self-belief. Most people are not fighting the world. They are fighting their own mind. It's not life that exhausts you. It's your thinking about life. How many times have you defeated yourself before anything external had a chance to challenge you? You had the ability. You had the opportunity. You had the potential. But your inner dialogue became your enemy. You're not ready. You're not good enough. What if they judge you? What if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? Just wait a little longer. That voice is not you. It is your fear wearing your voice. Stoicism teaches you to separate you, the thinker, from your thoughts, the noise. The Stoics used a simple mental skill that modern psychology calls cognitive distancing. It goes like this. Instead of saying, "I will fail," say, "I am having the thought that I will fail." Do you feel the difference? The first statement fuses fear with identity. You become the fear. The second statement creates separation. The fear becomes an external event, not part of you. The Stoics used this to break mental illusions. Marcus Aurelius would tell himself, "These are just appearances. They are not reality." This skill works unbelievably well when you're anxious, you're overthinking, you're doubting yourself, your mind is spiraling, you're catastrophizing. It stops the spiral by refusing to merge with the thought. You don't fight the thought, you don't suppress it, you don't argue, you simply observe it, and it loses power. Seneca said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." To break imaginary suffering, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What exactly is happening right now? Not what you fear, not what you imagine, not what your insecurities are whispering. Right now, this present moment, this exact reality. Usually, nothing dangerous is happening. 2. What story am I adding to the situation? Humans don't fear events. They fear the story surrounding the event. Event. They didn't reply to my message. Story. They're losing interest. I said something wrong. They're talking to someone else. I'm not good enough. Event. Job interview next week. Story. What if I freeze? What if I embarrass myself? What if I get rejected? What if I look stupid? Recognize the story. Challenge the story. Rewrite the story. 3. What action can I take right now? Stoics were obsessed with action, not overthinking, not waiting, not spiraling. Because action grounds the mind. Fear grows in inaction. Fear dies in movement. Take one small step. Send the message. Apply for the job. Go to the gym. Make the call. Set the boundary. Start the project. Have the conversation. Write the plan. Action dissolves imaginary suffering. This is a powerful but rarely understood Stoic technique. They expose themselves intentionally to small discomforts to toughen their mind. Why? Because discomfort reduces fear. Fear reduces overthinking, and overthinking reduces imaginary suffering. Some examples: cold showers, fasting, Physical exercise, sleeping on a simple surface, doing difficult tasks, speaking up, practicing rejection, reducing unnecessary comfort. Seneca said, "Train the body rigorously so that it may obey the mind." Voluntary discomfort strengthens the voice of courage and weakens the voice of imaginary fear. When you willingly embrace discomfort, your fear of discomfort shrinks. Imaginary suffering thrives in a chaotic mind. So the Stoics practiced stillness, not silence, not emptiness. Stillness, the ability to remain centered even when life is loud. They practiced breath control, walking meditations, reflection, journaling, silence, observing, thoughts accepting the present moment, not because they were soft, but because they were training for war, the inner war. Marcus Aurelius wasn't meditating in a palace. He was meditating in military camps, on the battlefield, surrounded by conflict and chaos. He trained his mind the way soldiers train their bodies. Stoics taught that suffering occurs when you fight reality, not when bad things happen, but when you resist what is already happening. Acceptance is not passive, it is not weak, it is not defeat. Acceptance is clarity. Acceptance says, "This is what I'm facing." Now, what is the best action forward? When you accept reality, fear shrinks, clarity grows, decisions become easier. Anxiety decreases, courage increases, inner peace strengthens. Acceptance ends the war between your mind and the world. You are stronger than you think. You have survived every worst moment you imagined would break you. You have lived through heartbreak, disappointment, rejection, failure, betrayal, pressure, fear, uncertainty, and you're still here. Stoicism teaches this final truth. Reality is rarely the enemy. Your imagination is, and you can master it. You can become the commander of your mind. You can choose which thoughts receive power. You can break the fear loop. You can return to the present. You can silence mental noise. You can turn your mind into your ally instead of your enemy. And when you do, your life expands. Stoic law. 3. Detach from what you cannot control, or be controlled by it. Marcus Aurelius meets modern life, deep, grounded, timeless. Before we begin, take a breath. Because this chapter, this law, is one of the hardest truths you will ever confront. The Stoics believed that almost all human suffering comes from one mistake: trying to control what was never yours to control, trying to control outcomes, trying to control people, trying to control the past, trying to control the future, trying to control someone's feelings, trying to control what others think of you, trying to control how life unfolds, even trying to control things the universe didn't give you jurisdiction over. And Marcus Aurelius wrote this truth in his private journal. You have power over your mind, not external events. But he didn't stop there. He continued, realize this, and you will find strength. Not peace, not comfort. Strength. Because when you finally accept what is in your control and what isn't, a shift happens inside you that is almost indescribable. Your anxiety drops, your stress loosens, your fear shrinks, your mind clears, your emotional reactions soften, your judgment sharpens, you become free. That is the purpose of Chapter 3. Most people don't realize something heartbreaking. Their suffering isn't caused by life, but by their attachment to controlling life. Think about it. You can't control what someone else thinks of you, yet you exhaust yourself trying to. You can't control whether someone stays loyal, yet you break your own heart trying to keep them. You can't control whether a situation goes exactly how you planned, yet you blame yourself when it doesn't. You can't control how fast success arrives, yet you punish yourself for not being there yet. This is the suffering the Stoics saw everywhere. People trying to control the uncontrollable and ignoring the power they actually have. Their thoughts, actions, effort, attitude, integrity, and character. And the more you try to control what isn't yours, the more life feels heavier than it needs to be. Let me give you a picture. Imagine trying to steer a ship in a storm while gripping the waves instead of the wheel. You'd drown. That's how most people live. Gripping the waves, trying to control outcomes, people, timing, and events, and forgetting the only thing they could actually steer, their response. This section brings deep clarity. Stoics simplified life into 3 circles. 1. The circle of no control. This includes everything outside your influence, other people's opinions, other people's decisions, outcomes of your efforts, your past natural events, timing, luck, external judgment, the economy, the weather, betrayal, rejection, fate. Trying to control these creates endless suffering. 2. The circle of partial control. This includes things you influence but cannot fully determine: relationships, opportunities, projects, your social reputation, teamwork, collaboration, negotiations, health to a degree, career advancements. You can shape these through effort and attitude, but you cannot guarantee them. 3. The circle of complete control. The Stoics believed this circle is extremely small, but extremely powerful. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your attitude, your character, your effort, your focus, your discipline, your reactions, your intentions. This is the only territory you truly own. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." Not because the rest is unimportant, but because the rest isn't yours to control. Here's the deeper truth. The more attached you are to controlling outcomes, the more pain life gives you. When you attach your happiness to external events, you hand your peace over to uncertainty. When you attach your self-worth to someone's approval, you become a hostage to their mood. When you attach your identity to success, you collapse the moment life disrupts your plan. When you attach your calm to predictability, you shatter in chaos. But when you detach, not in a cold or emotionless way, but in a stoic, wise, grounded way, you unlock something rare: emotional stability. Not because life becomes easy, but because you stop fighting what you cannot control. This one needs to be deeply understood. Most people misunderstand detachment. They think detachment means, I don't care. Nothing matters. I'm cold. I'm numb. I'm distant. But that is not Stoic detachment. Stoic detachment means, I care deeply, but I do not cling. It means, I give my best effort, but I don't cling to the outcome. I love sincerely, but I don't cling to someone's decisions. I pursue goals with passion, but I don't cling to a specific timeline. I do what's right, but I don't cling to how others respond. This is not coldness. This is inner freedom. The Stoics were not numb. They felt emotions deeply. They just refused to drown in them. This law requires humility. It forces you to admit, I don't control as much as I think I do. And ego hates that. Ego wants to be in charge. Ego wants certainty. ego wants outcomes. Ego wants people to behave as expected. Ego wants life to follow the script you wrote for it. But the Stoics remind us, life is co-authored, not solely authored. You write your part, your effort, your integrity, your decisions. But the universe writes everything else. Acceptance of this isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And learning this is the beginning of true mental freedom. Stoic Law 4. The people who disappear. One of the hardest lessons in life: people don't always leave because you did something wrong. Sometimes they leave because their chapter in your story is finished. The Stoics taught that no person is truly yours. Only the lessons they give you are. Some people come into your life to teach you self-worth, some to teach you boundaries, some to teach you patience, some to teach you what love is, and some to teach you what love is not. But every person plays their part, and every departure creates space for who you're becoming. Let them go. Let the lessons stay. Stoic Law 5. Walking alone, the season nobody prepares you for. There is a season in every warrior's journey where you walk alone, not because nobody cares, but because the path of growth is narrow. The Stoics called this the season of self-formation, the period where you build the character that will carry the rest of your life. This is the season where you start saying no more often. You start protecting your time. You start correcting your habits. You start demanding more from yourself than the world demands from you. And yes, it gets lonely. But loneliness isn't a punishment. Loneliness is the forging fire. The world meets you after you've built yourself in private. Stoic Law 6. Reinvention, becoming the person you need to be. Reinvention is not a moment, it's a process, a quiet, uncomfortable, slow transformation that happens long before anyone else sees the results. Reinvention is choosing discipline when nobody is watching. It's choosing healing when avoiding the pain is easier. It's choosing growth even when staying the same is safer. Most people never reinvent themselves because reinvention requires death. The death of old habits, old identities, old environments, old excuses. But on the other side of that death is a life you haven't even imagined yet. Stoic Law 7. The climb back up. There is a point in your journey where the pain doesn't disappear, but you rise anyway, where you stop waiting for motivation and start relying on discipline, where you stop asking for permission and start leading your own life. Every step you take upward, even the messy, shaky, uncertain ones, counts. This is where you rebuild your confidence. This is where you find your courage. This is where you discover your power. You're not climbing to impress anyone. You're climbing to meet the version of yourself you were always meant to become. Chapter 8. Your future self is watching. You are not behind. You're not late. You are not failing. You are becoming. The Stoics taught that every struggle refines you. Every delay prepares you. Every challenge strengthens you. Nothing is wasted. Not the heartbreak, not the confusion, not the silence, not the slow seasons, not the rejection. Every chapter is shaping you into someone you will one day thank. Your future self is watching, and they're proud of you already. This is your reminder to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep choosing yourself even when it hurts. One day you will look back and thank the version of you that refused to break even while they were hurting. Your season is coming, and when it arrives, Everything you lost will feel small compared to what you gain. This is your rise. If this message resonated with you, like the video, comment your favorite law, share this with someone on their journey, subscribe. We're building a community of thinkers and warriors.